In the quiet, windswept town of Port Blossom, where the biggest news was the annual seagull migration, I was a reporter with dreams far bigger than our local gazette. My name is Leo, and all I wanted was a story, a real scoop, that would punch my ticket out of this sleepy hollow and into the big leagues of journalism. Then, the whispers started. Old fishermen, their faces weathered like the cliffs, spoke of a strange catch in their nets, a glimpse of something impossible in the waves. A large fish, they'd say, but with the face of a woman. A mermaid. It sounded like the ramblings of men who'd spent too much time with the sea and the bottle. Nonsense. But it was the only lead I had. A story about debunking a local myth? It wasn't exactly front-page material for a national paper, but it was something. So my nightly vigils began. For a week, I sat on the cold, damp sand of our little beach, armed with a thermos of coffee, a notebook, and a healthy dose of skepticism. The sea offered nothing but the rhythmic crash of waves and the salty sting of the air. By the seventh night, my patience had worn as thin as the morning mist. I was ready to pack it in, to write a cynical little piece about local folklore and call it a day. As I stood up, brushing the sand from my coat, a flicker of movement caught my eye. There, about 50 feet from the shore, a silhouette broke the water's surface. It wasn't a seal, and it wasn't a log. It was her. She swam with a grace that defied nature, her long hair shimmering under the moonlight like spun silver. She pulled herself onto a large, flat rock, her tail, a cascade of iridescent scales, flicking water that sparkled like diamonds. And then she began to sing. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried across the water, a melody that was ancient, beautiful, and filled with a profound loneliness. It seemed to weave itself into the starlight she was gazing at so intently. I was frozen, captivated. My reporter's mind, usually buzzing with questions and angles, went silent. All I could feel was an overwhelming sense of wonder. Forgetting myself, forgetting my story, I called out, "Hello?" Her song stopped. Her head snapped in my direction, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and curiosity. I expected her to dive back into the depths and vanish forever, but she didn't. She just watched me. I took a few tentative steps into the shallows, the cold water seeping into my shoes. "I'm not going to hurt you," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Your song, it was beautiful." A slow smile graced her lips. That was the beginning. Her name was Coralia. Night after night, I returned to that same spot, and she would be waiting. We talked for hours. I told her about my world, of deadlines, ambitions, the noise of cities she could never imagine. She told me of hers, of silent, sun-dappled canyons beneath the waves, of ancient sea creatures, of a life lived in the endless blue. She was intelligent, witty, and possessed a wisdom that felt as old as the tides. The more I learned, the more the lines blurred between the reporter and the man. The story was forgotten. All that mattered was her. We would swim together in the shallows, her hand in mine. In the water, I felt a freedom I'd never known on land. The cold didn't bother me when she was near. Her touch was electric, her laughter the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. I was completely, irrevocably in love. My ambition, once the driving force of my life, now seemed hollow and insignificant. What was a byline in a major newspaper compared to the universe I saw in her eyes? But I was a man of the land, and she was a creature of the sea. An impossible chasm stretched between our worlds. One night, under a sky full of stars, she confirmed my deepest fear and my greatest hope. "There is a way, Leo," she said, her voice soft and serious. "But the price is everything you are." She explained the ancient magic of her kind. If we were to kiss, deep beneath the surface, she would draw my life essence, my very breath, into herself. It wouldn't kill me, not exactly. It would transform me. I would share my life with you, and you would share yours with me, she explained. You would become like me. She looked at me, her gaze searching. But you could never leave the water for long. The land would become your poison. Your old life, your dreams, they would be gone forever. You would belong to the sea. I spent days wrestling with her words. Give up everything? My life, my future, my very humanity? The journalist in me screamed that it was insane. But the man who was in love knew the answer almost immediately. What was a life on land without her? It was a half-life, a black and white existence now that I had seen the vibrant color of her world. My grand ambition had been to find a great story, but I had found something infinitely greater. I found love. A love so profound, it made the rest of the world fade away. I went to the beach that night and found her waiting. I didn't need to say a word. She saw the decision in my eyes. She took my hand, and together we swam out, further than ever before, into the dark, open sea. The moon was our only guide. "Are you sure?" she whispered, her face inches from mine. "I've never been more sure of anything," I replied, and I meant it. We took a deep breath and dove. Down and down we went, into the silent, crushing dark. The pressure built in my ears, my lungs screaming for air. But I looked at her, at the love and promise in her eyes, and all fear vanished. She pulled me close, and in the deep, silent world below, our lips met. It was not a gentle kiss. It was a torrent, a whirlpool of energy. I felt my life force being pulled from me, a draining sensation that was both terrifying and ecstatic. My vision blurred, the last of my air escaping in a stream of bubbles. The darkness closed in, and my last conscious thought was of her face. I awoke to the gentlest of sensations. Coralia was holding me, her arms wrapped around me. I opened my eyes, and the world was a symphony of blue and green. Sunlight filtered down from the surface, creating dancing patterns on the ocean floor. I took a breath, and water filled my lungs. I didn't choke. I didn't panic. It felt natural. I could breathe. I looked down at myself. My legs were gone, replaced by a powerful, shimmering tail, much like hers. Coralia smiled, a look of pure, unadulterated joy on her face. "Welcome home," she whispered, her voice clear as a bell in the water. She told me I could never stray too far from the sea, that the air would now suffocate me as the water once had. My new life had begun. All thoughts of promotions, bylines, and bustling cities were gone, like distant dreams from another lifetime. None of it mattered. This love, this profound connection was the only truth. Holding her hand, our tails moving in perfect sync, we swam off together, deeper into the endless, beautiful blue to start our life together. Back in Port Blossom, the rumors of the womanfish eventually faded, dismissed as just another tall tale from the sea, a hoax. The ambitious young reporter who had chased the story simply disappeared, his own story untold. And it was all worth it. Nothing in this world or any other could ever be as deep as this love. Thanks for joining us on this journey. If you enjoyed this story and want to explore more tales from the deep, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you on our next voyage into the unknown.